always good to read your Bibles. In this case, we go with the NFL Draft Bible because we're preparing for the NFL Draft in just 2 weeks. Rick Saratella joins me from the NFL Draft Bible. Rick, how you doing today?
Mark, we're getting close to the nitty-gritty. I can feel it. I can sense it. I can almost touch it, feel it, taste it. It's exciting times.
It's exciting unless you root for those offensive line picks. So this seems to be the only time during the season that a lot of NFL fans and college football fans focus on offensive linemen. And the draft has been littered with the tackle position because especially the left tackle, very valued in the NFL. But there's just not a whole lot of guys right here. And it might be Wisconsin's Ryan Ramczyk who takes top prize as first offensive lineman drafted, but it could be some time before we hear his name selected. Can you give us a taste of who might slip into the first round?
Yeah, in 15 years of analyzing the draft, this has got to be one of, if not possibly, the least rated first-round offensive lineman. It's not too sexy going on, but, Ryan Ramczyk's a guy. He's an interesting case because just 1 year starter at Wisconsin, obviously transferring from Wisconsin Whitewater, a FCS powerhouse there. But, this hip procedure he had after the season, he was one of the players called back for the medical recheck evaluation in Indianapolis. And I think we're going to find out what those medical reports said come draft day, because, quite honestly, I could see him maybe sliding out of the first round. I know a lot of people have him as the consensus first offensive tackle off the board. But for me, I like a guy like a Garrett Bowles from Utah. I think he's ready to plug and play right away. I think he can play left tackle. A little bit older, maybe not as much upside to like at 25 years old, but a guy that I think is really polished, really ready. A guy I talked to in the combine, family-oriented, already married, has some kids, so he could go to a big city market and be a guy that you really don't have to worry about too much. And then you have the kid out of Alabama, Cam Robinson, who, a lot of people view as that right tackle, but depending on what team you are, there's a lot of offensive line needy teams, a lot of tackle needy teams. A lot of people in New York here ask me if the Giants are going to select an offensive tackle, and would you use a first-round pick on a right tackle such as Cam Robinson? Well, I would say that Cam Robinson, if he was taken by the Giants, he might go in there and compete with Eric Flowers at that left tackle position. So I wouldn't be so quick to write him off and just automatically assume that he is a right tackle. And then the guy I like in the first round, dark horse, Forrest Lamp from Western Kentucky. Here's a guy that could play, played tackle in college. People like him as guard at the next level, but there's even a handful of teams who could kick him inside and be a starting center at the next level. And I think he could be a candidate there to slide into the first round.
Yeah, Cam Robinson at first glance would be the guy that would appear to have the biggest upside, the biggest ceiling. Came into camp at Alabama at Tuscaloosa as a five-star guy, as you might imagine. With the talent that they have at Alabama, of course, he's the guy that had all the measurables coming out of high school and just didn't develop as a pass blocker. Of course, they throw it 20, 25 times with Alabama in most occasions. Dan Feeney, a guy with Indiana who is slipping onto a lot of radar. Pat Elflein seems to be the center at Ohio State. Then it drops off considerably after that. Who do you like out of the sleeper category?
Yeah, speaking of centers, Ethan Posick from LSU, there's a guy who'll probably come in and possibly compete for a starting job at the next level. Jordan Morgan out of Kutztown University. I think we got to go back to John Mobley to remember the last time a guy from Kutztown got drafted. But this guy, he came in there at the Temple Pro Day, and they worked him out alongside Ethan Cooper, another small school sleeper from IUP, but also Dion Dawkins from Temple University, who I think is a guy who's going to go in the second round. He played left tackle at Temple. He's probably going to kick into guard at the next level. So the kid out of Bucknell is another guy I had a chance to see, Julian Davenport, the Condor, I call him, 88-inch wingspan. They had to find his wingspan was too large for the hallway. They had to find a place where they can open the door and get a second measuring tape to measure his wingspan. So there's another guy I like. Maybe some good potential developmental guys. Taylor Moton from Western Michigan is another guy that people like. Antonio Garcia out of Troy, people like his upside there. I didn't see it so much at the Senior Bowl when you talk about guys that could develop into the guy I think comes off the board in day 2.
It's such an important position. You have to have an offensive line. It's probably the most important positional unit on the team. And to be this depth of talent in 3 different areas, center, guard, and tackle in the same year is very odd. Could be the first year since 1987 that we don't see a tackle taken in the first 15 picks, and that will probably hold true for the first time in 30 years. All right, Rick Saratella joining us to break down the centers, the guards, and the tackles on the offensive side of the football from the NFL Draft Bible. Rick, we always appreciate the time.
Always a pleasure, Mark.